She had a dream to be a National Geographic photographer. That dream is the basis for an incredible true life story from a Tennessee farm to becoming president of a global company. Coming up next on Tennessee Writes, we meet Tennessee author Brenda Sellers, and we'll hear about her journey. That includes caring for elderly parents, being a supportive wife to a veteran, and her hilarious travels and life journey.
Books about Tennessee.
Books that come from Tennessee authors.
Books and stories with a Tennessee twist.
West Tennessee PBS presents Tennessee Writes.
We welcome you to Tennessee Writes. I'm your host, Peter Knoll. Grab a cup of coffee, your favorite comfy chair, and get ready to dive into the world of Tennessee books as we sit down with authors that have a Tennessee connection. Some are from here, others call Tennessee home now, or they've written stories with a Tennessee twist. Today, Tennessee Writes welcomes an author who grew up on a Tennessee farm and went on to be a president of a global manufacturing company. Please welcome Brenda Sellers. Brenda, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on in.
Thank you.
Have a seat here.
Thank you.
So tell us, where in Tennessee did you grow up? Where was your family farm?
Okay, we grew up at a place called Prater Flats in East Tennessee in Blount County.
And what about that upbringing on the farm impacts you today?
Well, living on a farm, you learn to get up early, you work all day, and back before child labor laws, we actually worked in the fields all day. I was learning to drive a tractor. Daddy had a soybeans, and he did beef cattle. So that's what we did. But to this day, we had to pick okra and tomatoes. So to this day, I will not eat okra.
Even fried okra?
No, because I had to eat okra. I had to pick it, and it was so hot. I said, I'll never eat okra.
And you never have?
I never have.
Well, so you grew up in the farm,
Yes.
and then you had jobs like, I heard you were a car detailer was one of your first jobs?
Yes, one of my first jobs was a car detailer. Growing up with a farm and with brothers, we loved cars. We had a love affair with the cars at a very young age. Well, our farm was right through a dairy farm, and I had a white car, and so every day I had to clean manure off my car. So I learned at a very early age to detail cars, and that ended up going into a car detail business.
Tell us about your family.
Okay, so my dad and my mom, and I had two brothers, older brother and a younger brother, but I was the only girl.
And you're married now?
Yes, and I have part of my claim to fame, and mentioned in my book, is I raised 15 kids.
Wow, tell us about that.
Okay, so these kids had families of their own, but we had one son. We call him the blood kid. He's rock star in Nashville, but we had all these other kids, and we fed them. I'm a junk food eater, and so we fed all these kids, and they came back. So from grade school to high school, college, and beyond, I'm still helping and mentor these kids.
Wow. Every single day?
Not every day, but the girls and I try to go every year on a beach trip.
Where did you go last year?
We went to Panama City.
Wow. And how many girls are going on this?
This is about eight of the 15.
And where's this year's trip?
We didn't do one this year, so hopefully next year.
Where do you hope to go to next year?
We try to go someplace different every time.
Okay. So you grew up on a farm.
Yes.
Car detailer.
Yes.
You left the farm, and what happened?
And got a job as a receptionist. Well, for a farm girl that had to work out in the hot sun and pick okra, I couldn't believe that I actually got paid to work inside in nice air conditioning. So I went from the president, or the receptionist, to the presidency job. So.
And that's like stuff of legends. How did you go from being a receptionist at a company to the president?
Well, just working hard. There again, it goes back to that farm ethic. You just kind of learn to work hard and set goals and try to achieve those goals.
How long did that climbing the corporate ladder take you?
Well, I was at Chroma, which were the company that makes the little stick people.
The stickers on like the back of a truck, windows, or cars.
Yes. So that I ended up working there for almost 40 years.
Wow.
Yes.
And so you became a receptionist, and then how many years later were you president?
Probably 10 to 15 years. So.
Wow. So you're like, you did everyone's job at the company at one time, pretty much.
Not really. I learned very early on to surround yourself with good people. So it was really the employees and our staff. We had a lot of dedicated people that worked at Chroma. So a lot of that, I was just there for a good time. But we worked hard and we played hard.
Now, are you still working there now?
Yeah. No, in 2020, Big Ed, my husband, that's a veteran. He's a 2-time Purple Heart veteran. He was experiencing some severe PTSD, and then COVID hit, so I ended up working at home. But that also was an opportunity to finish this book and get that completed. So.
Wow. So, well, a lot of people were binge watching television shows on Netflix during COVID lockdown. You wrote a book.
Yes, that's what I'd been working on it for several years, but I finally got a chance to finish it.
So, your husband,
Yes.
veteran.
Yes.
Was he serving while you were, married? Or
No,
was that
he had already been. He was a Vietnam vet. He had served his time. But people don't realize that even though that was a long time ago, something tragic can happen and bring all those PTSD feelings back. And part of the story is, I wasn't going to tell his story, but it ended up. The first chapter, we're in an underwater hotel, we're scuba diving. He couldn't swim. He didn't know how to scuba dive, and then he ends up being an instructor with over 50 certifications. But then he has a tragic accident, and that's told in the story too. But all that brought all that PTSD back.
Sure. I think, Channel 11 does a lot of work with the West Tennessee Veterans Coalition, and, even World War II veterans
Yes.
that I've met and spoken to, they still are dealing with what happened so many years ago.
Yes.
And next month is, veterans here. And so we'll be we do the parade and do some special features about that.
Well, Big Ed has his own fan club. They even have buttons that say Big Ed Fan Club.
Wow. Now, where did the Big Ed nickname come from?
Okay, so, well, if you go on the website and look, and each chapter has its own episodes and its own chapters, as you can see the pictures, he was a big guy. He was just a big guy, and so it just stuck. It wasn't derogatory. It's just like, he's Ed, and he's Big Ed. So he's just Big Ed.
Now, when you're not, touring with the book and traveling with the girls, what's fun to Brenda?
Okay, so I have a lot of fun. Every day is fun. I make it sure that, because life is too short. That's part of my story. I had my cousin died at a very young age at 23, and my grandmother died when I was 12. So I had a hard time understanding death, and I'm like, well, you need to live life while you can. And then when I was 12, I had a pony accident. It wasn't an accident, but it could have been a fatal accident. But it was where my adrenaline seeking came into, because my mother was going to take a picture of me on my pony. But that pony had other other plans, and the pony went off, started jumping and bucking, but I held on. But my mother about had a heart attack. But to me, it was an adrenaline rush. So my whole life, I've spent not only bungee jumping, skydiving, swimming with sharks, scuba diving with sharks. So that's how I have fun.
What's been your most recent adrenaline rush?
The most recent? Driving down here. I almost got rear-ended and had to go off-road.
No! Seriously? This morning?
Well, yesterday. I came in yesterday.
Yesterday. Oh, no.
Yes, but I learned, growing up on a farm, we learned how to drive at a very early age. So I did that. I did Land Rover driving class and race car driving school. So that helped yesterday.
Well, hopefully it wasn't in Jackson.
No, it was not.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, it's time that we talk about your book. You Slept Where? Calamities of a Clumsy Businesswoman. Give us an overview of the book. I mean, it's got such a unique title. What's it about?
Okay, so the book is like Dorothy. I go all over the world, and I find that there's no place like home. But it's not just a travelogue that I do bizarre things. I climb Mount Everest. I do a lot of different things. But the story really is dedicated to my parents and Big Ed.
So why did you dedicate it to your parents?
Well, because they had to put up with me for all my life. And their generation is from the Great, my dad was from the Great Depression, and they're such a resilient generation.
They're called the silent generation
Yes,
sometimes
yes.
because they got through stuff.
They got
didn't
through it.
complain. They didn't want credit. They just got through
They
it.
got through stuff. And it was so sad because my mother was a sweet, timid Christian lady, but then she got Alzheimer's. And Mama always said, just be nice. So that's why I always wear the Be Nice shirt, because later on with the disease, Mama wasn't so nice.
And that's one of the things.
And that's part of the
happens with
story as
Alzheimer's.
well. And it shows it's not just about travel and bizarre places. It's about life-work balance. How do you run companies and take care of your own family, deal with your elderly parents, and raise 15 kids?
And so many of our viewers are, in that sandwich.
Yes.
Where, they've got their own family, spouse, kids, a career.
Yes.
And then their parents start getting older, and then they become a caregiver to them as well, and juggling it all. And you were doing it with laughs in your book.
Yes. Well, when I was dealing with Mama with her dementia, I would write the stories, and then I would read, because Mama was an avid reader, so I'd write the stories, and I'd read them to her, and then she would laugh. So it was laughter really is the best medicine, because the Bible says, blessed be a merry heart. So we just tried to laugh.
I'll have to remember that when I'm laughing at inappropriate times.
Okay. Okay.
Your family is woven into the stories
Yes.
about your travel.
Yes.
And your travel sort of gets jump-started by this quest to become a National Geographic photographer.
Yes.
What was it about that
Well,
goal?
as a little girl, I always watched Mama take pictures, and so I grew up with watching her take pictures. But Mama had some magazines that my aunt gave us from National Geographic, and I said at 10 years old, I wanted to see those places and I wanted to photograph them. So from that point on, at 10 years old, even with a Polaroid, back in the day when you had a black and white Polaroid, I started taking pictures back then. So that was my quest, and that's where the list started. I started making lists of trying to see all these places.
And your family begrudgingly was very supportive.
Yes, yes.
Like trying to get the polar bear photos.
Yes.
Is one part. And,
Yes.
Dad was looking at it, they're like, they're all blurry. What's that a photo of?
That's right. Yeah.
But you kept going.
I kept going. I kept trying. Yeah, that was so disappointing in that trip. We spent all that time and effort, and that chapter was a tough chapter, and none of my pictures turned out well. So each time I just tried to get better and better and better.
What of all the trips that you've taken stands out most in your mind?
Well, probably Mount Everest, because that was a hard trip, but also I don't remember 3 days on that trip. I said my biggest accomplishment of climbing Mount Everest that I didn't break a fingernail.
What was that? Was that important? Did you bring like makeup and stuff along?
Of course.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I did. But the goal was I was trying to photograph one of the mountains, and people don't realize that Mount Everest is one of the natural wonders of the world. So I was trying to photograph 4 sets times 7, and Mount Everest just happened to be one of the natural wonders of the world.
Is promoting the book hard being away from Big Ed?
Well, he usually comes with me, but because I do a lot of book clubs, and at this one book club in Johnson City, I forgot to tell them that Big Ed was coming, and they screamed when they saw him because they had read the book, and oh, it's Big Ed, and they ended up being a Big Ed fan club as well, and got a button.
Wow. Are you jealous?
No,
you have
no,
all
no,
these
no.
women who
No,
are
because he's got a
starting-
little bit of dementia now too, and so it was just a good pat on his back, and it was just a good attaboy for Big Ed.
You mentioned lists, and that's a big part of your book.
Yes.
Is at the end, you really want people to make their own list
Yes.
of things that they want to accomplish. How did you become a list maker?
Okay, I started very early on, and it seems like it was part of achieving and then being goal driven. Because and I love my electronic devices, but it's something about the pen and paper, writing it down and then checking it off. So if I could have skydived on Mount Everest and checked it off the list, that would have been good because I checked it off the list. So that's what I encourage people to do, because life goes by so fast, and before you know it, if you don't write the items down and make a list, then life goes on.
Do you think the art of making a list is getting lost in this digital world?
Maybe. I don't, you can mark it off digitally, but it is something about achieving it on paper. So that's why in the back of the book, I gave you your own. Did you see in the back?
Yeah,
the own
you
template?
can tear out your
yes,
own
you tear it
to-do
out, and
list,
so
yes.
it was just a simple little template that makes you think, well, where do you want to go? And what have you always dreamed about as a child? Is there any place that you wanted to go?
Me, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm trying to think. Where did I always want to go? Lately I've been wanting to go to South Korea.
Okay, so write down your list.
Put it on my list.
Put it on your
That's
list.
as simple as it is.
That is.
Your book has a very immersive website companion. It's almost like an extension of your book.
Yes.
Not just trying to sell you more copies,
No.
but here's some more about the places that I mentioned.
Yes.
Every journey that you've taken that you mentioned in the book, there's photos.
Yes, and that was from the publishers. That was very innovative because if you tried to put all those photographs in a book, you'd have a $50 coffee table book that nobody cares about. But if you're reading through the Underwater Hotel or the Ice Hotel, you can go to that chapter on the website and see what that looks like.
Fun.
Yeah, and it's very interactive with the reader.
This is your only book so far?
Yeah, that's the only one that I have.
Are you planning on doing
Well, my
more
goal
books?
is to get a streaming, because each chapter could be a streaming documentary. So I think that's my next project. I'm working on that.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to write a book?
You need to make a list and write it down and do it.
What the process of getting published?
Yes.
What was the most surprising thing to you?
Well, the most hardest thing is for me, because it wasn't my background, is I needed a lot of editing. I had editing on top of editing, and I didn't know you had to have a line editor, you had to have a content editor, and just there was so much editing going on. And then once the publisher got it, they do their own editing. So it's editing on top of editing on top of editing.
So you gotta have a thick skin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But my business background, we were used to dealing with large retailers, so that did not bother me at all. Just they're the experts.
I think you've said that was quite a long process.
Yes.
How long did that?
Well, it was a
editing-
10-year process, and you can spend another 10 years. That's the advice I'd give to others. You could spend another 10 years trying to rewrite. Ernest Hemingway did rewrites up to 56 times on one page. 56 times. So you could spend 10 years more writing. You finally just have to cut it off.
And what is your hope with the book?
That people live life and life.
Is there anything I should have asked you that I did?
The title is from my dad, because Daddy could not believe, being in that great generation, that I paid money and took time to go sleep in a silo when we have a silo in our backyard. But I went to Quaker Oats silo, and he's like, "You slept where?" He could not believe you slept where.
And where was the Quaker Oats silo?
It was in Ohio.
Ohio.
Mhm.
Okay. You've been all over. Are there any states you've not been to?
No, been to all the states in 69 countries. Well, actually, just got back from Iceland, so that's 70 countries.
What was Iceland like?
Iceland was cold. It was cold, but it was wonderful. I had a book signing there at one of the bookstores. So that was, and they brought their young daughters to see me, to meet it.
In Reykjavik?
Yes.
How much fun.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Brenda, now we've come to the part of the show we like to call the Tennessee Writes Lightning Round, where we ask each author a series of book-related questions and see how many you can answer in 2 minutes.
Okay.
If you can't come up with answers, say pass.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Favorite book of all time?
If life is like a bowl of cherries, why am I in the pits?
What book are you reading right now?
Spare.
Last book you finished reading?
Was Spare.
What book have you read multiple times?
Oh, Gone with the Wind.
How many times?
Twice.
What author, living or dead, would you most like to have dinner with?
Irma Bombay.
Paper books or e-books?
Audible.
Audible. First book you can remember reading?
Harriet the Spy.
On average, how many books do you read in a year?
70.
Favorite children's book?
The Little Engine That Could.
What book has most influenced your life?
There's so many I can't really tell, but probably Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
What book is on your list to read next?
I have a lot, like a whole bunch.
Name an author you most admire.
Irma Bombay.
How many books are on your nightstand right now?
6.
What book took you the longest time to finish?
Probably Gone with the Wind,
How long?
like months.
Do you own more paperback books or hardcover books?
Hardcover.
What's your favorite movie based on a book?
Well, I like the National Lampoon's Vacation in Trains, Planes, and Automobiles.
How many hours a week on average do you spend time reading a book?
Oh, probably 20 hours
Favorite place to read?
in the car, well, listen in the car.
Least favorite place to read?
The least favorite place, at the dinner table.
What's the last audiobook you listened to?
My own book,
Do you prefer fiction or nonfiction?
nonfiction.
Whose autobiography is your all-time favorite?
All-time favorite. I'm just finishing Barbara Streisand's.
Name a fellow author you would like to go on a book tour with.
There's so many. I can't pick just one.
What celebrity would you most like to co-author a book with?
Matthew McConaughey.
And you did it. Coming to the end of our 2 minutes.
Oh, good.
You did great.
Okay.
Brenda, if people want to purchase the book, what's the best place for them to go?
Amazon or Barnes & Noble.
Okay. And it's hardcover. Do you have paperback yet?
I don't think so. I think it's just hardcover only.
And
from the
it is
publisher.
available Audible.
It's Audible, yes.
And I noticed when I was listening to it, the narrator's name, you share a name.
Yes, that's my cousin. That's Amanda Prater Stribling from Nashville. And she's reading my book and also Dolly Parton's book.
Wow. Was she narrating before you became an author?
Yes, she was. That's
Oh,
what she
so that was a
does.
natural,
Yes.
hey, I've got a book. Cuz, do you want to read it?
And she did. She's a professional actress.
Well, great job.
Yeah,
Great
she
job.
She does a good job.
What's next for you? Is there going to be Where You Slept Where Part 2?
I don't know. I'm trying to get it into a streaming platform, to a movie or some type of a segment. Would be
Okay.
funny.
Okay.
Because it'd make a good travel documentary as dealing with parents too.
Sure. Okay. And if people want to stay in touch with you, your travels,
Yes.
you have social media?
Yeah, I'm all over social media. I have a YouTube channel as well. And then on my website, just www.brendapratersellers.com, they can look at all the pictures from the book.
Okay. Brenda, we have sadly come to the end of the show, but we do want to thank you for joining us here on Tennessee Writes and sharing more about yourself, your family, and your book. And we would like to ask if you would sign the book for us.
I would be glad to. And I love the fact that you have a red Sharpie.
They're important, aren't
Yes,
they?
the red Sharpie is in Blount County, Tennessee. And I'm just going to sign this to PBS West, or is it West PBS?
West Tennessee
Okay,
PBS.
West Tennessee PBS. And I'm going to sign Brenda Sellers. And I'm going to end with, and I hope you will, be nice, because Mama said so. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
For comments about today's show or to suggest a Tennessee author for a future program, email us at TennesseeWrites@westtnpbs.org. Tennessee Writes, on air and streaming now.